Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's video is going to be kind of a hang out with me and make dinner, chill, relax, and yeah. So tonight's dinner is actually going to be one that is my personal favorite. However, it is not everybody in my house's favorite, but I really love it. We are making brats and potatoes. But because, like I said, it is not everybody in my house's favorite, I am going to make it a little different than what I normally do. So if you want to hang out with me, go ahead, stick around, and let's get into it. All right, guys, to kick this off, what you're going to need if you've never seen me do this is you're going to need some sausage, um, or brats, I should say. You're going to need some brats, whether it's the store brand brats, the, oh geez, what's it called? Johnsonville brats, or this is the one we have out and are going to use tonight, and it is just cheddar brats. Personally, I love the cheddar brats from Johnsonville, but this is what we had in our freezer. This is what we took out, so this is what we are going to be using. Another thing you're going to need is a cutting board for your potatoes and even potentially your brats. You're going to need a pan to cook them all in, and you're going to want some butter or oil, just something to coat so it does not stick. My personal preference is butter, but you can add whatever you want. And then the potatoes you want. This is the last of my 10-pound bag, so I may use them all, I may only use some. It just depends on my mood and what I'm feeling. But because I'm doing this with a twist, I am going to cook these up separately. Now you can do separately or you can do all together and cook the potatoes in the brats in one simple pan. Make it simple, easy, and not a lot of cleanup to be done. Totally, absolutely, perfectly fine. You could wrap these stuff up in foil and put it on a grill or over a fire. Totally, absolutely, perfectly fine. But because not everyone in my family likes this, I like to make everything separate and then at the very end combine things and make it kind of our own so we can add or take away anything we need. Now, some things you can add to this is you can add mushrooms, you can add onions, you can add different kinds of seasonings. I personally just do salt and pepper, but you can add whatever seasonings you want. And yeah, you can really make this recipe your own, which is why I like it so much, other than the fact that it tastes really good. So let's go ahead and get these cooking. Now, personally, I think I'm going to put these, I think I'm going to do these in my oven today. Yeah, I think I'm going to do my oven today. So I'm going to grab some foil. So I'm going to use my small pan and I'm going to cover it with foil. And before touching any of the food, I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands. And now we are going to put this down. All right. Now that I have that, I am going to spray. Spray my pan with oil, and I'm going to set these links and like so. These links are going to go in my oven at 350 for I actually don't know how long, Okay, while those links are cooking, I will start to get my potatoes ready. I've got to get these potatoes gone before they go super bad. So we're just going to keep cutting and taking care of them all. I love when I can get things out of my home. All right, so I've got, I believe, 10 potatoes here. So what I'm going to do is just cut them and make sure I get all the bad parts out because nobody wants to eat that. And I'm going to cut them up into cube-like and then put them into this pan. Now, as I said, there are, I believe, 10 potatoes here. So this is, like I said, the last of my 10 pounds. So I don't have like an exact measurement or an exact like amount or anything as far as what I'm putting into this pan or as far as, you know, how much I'm using of everything. What I'm doing is just kind of going by what I feel like looks good and what is going to work. Now, back in the day when I first started making this, what I would do when it was just my husband and I is I would cut these up and I would cut up the brats and I would put them in the same pan and let them cook until everything was cooked through and done and everything. But like I said, there's some family members who don't like it, so I don't make it like that anymore. And instead, I do everything separate. That way, if somebody wants just the brat, they can have just the brat. And if they want just the potato, they can have just the potato. Another thing I like to do is make sure, like, my husband would be somebody who would like to have mushrooms or onion or, you know, something like that mixed into his. Where myself personally, I just like the potatoes and the brats. So by doing it separately, we can also make it a very diverse meal and very kind of like as you want, make it your own, you know. So I have no rhyme, no reason. I'm just cutting into cubes and they're not all even, but that's okay as long as they're mostly even. You just want everything to cook evenly, basically. Okay, now that all my potatoes are cut, I've got me some butter. I'm not exactly sure how much I'm going to use, but I am going to just cut it up into cubes and just keep placing some in there until I think there's enough in there that it will not allow the potatoes to stick to the pan. Again, this is all how much you want, how little you want. You can use oil, but I do butter. How's everyone's weekend going? Have you guys been doing anything fun? You guys ready for school year to start back up? I know I'm not. I know my kids are not. They wish it was summer break all the time. But it's not. Therefore, we've got to get this thing going. This is a lot of butter. Just putting it out there. I'm really just trying to let the butter get in there and not stick. My main goal is not to let the potatoes stick. So, hopefully, and since I didn't put any butter in the beginning, rookie mistake, I'm trying to get it in there now. And tuck it in between these potatoes so that it really gets in there and melts down in there and hits that pan to prevent from sticking. Alright, I think that's all the potatoes and all the butter I'm going to use. So I'm going to clean up this mess and get my potatoes going. I'm going to grab a lid. And I like to put the lid on top because it kind of helps to lock the moisture in, which is something I want because I want my potatoes to be softer and not so crispy. And I'm going to come over here, set it on my stove, and cook it until I feel like they are nice and soft and all of that. And while that is going, I'm also going to check my brats. And these are what the brats are looking like, nice and done. So I'm going to set those over to the side. Alright guys, all that's left is to wait for my potatoes to cook up. I will be stirring them occasionally, and then we will move on with the combining process. Alright guys, and just to kind of show where we are, I have my potatoes over here cooking. My brats are done, and I know there was a lot of potatoes over here, so I got another pan and I put potatoes in here, and this will probably end up being the one my husband uses because he wants to add things like mushrooms and maybe onion. We'll see, but for sure mushrooms. So he'll probably use this one. That way all his flavors can get mixed in and be tasty. And we'll do this one where we can put everything, like scoop the amount we want, and then add our sausage in at the end. Alright, so we've got ourselves a little sizzle going, if you can hear it. I do have my earbuds in, so I have mixed it twice now. I am adding some salt. Now, I have to add this kosher salt due to the fact that we are all out of our typical salt. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to sprinkle in a little bit of pepper. I do not want to do too much though, because I want everyone to be able to season their food the way they want, and some people, like myself, like a lot of salt and little pepper, and other people like more pepper than salt. And then you've got those that just like everything to be nice and not heavily salted or peppered. Alright guys, as you can see, my potatoes are nice and done. They're soft enough that we can eat them and cooked enough. So that's good. They're not overcooked. They're good. This one is my husband's, as I said. You can see he added the mushroom to his. And then because we have somebody who isn't really wanting the brat and potato thing, no worries. We made burgers. I made one for my daughter and one for whoever else would want one, if they want one. If not, she can have both of them. And we have our brats over here off camera. So now what we're going to do is plate up. Guys, as far as plating up goes, I'm just going to do one on camera, and it is probably going to be mine. And all I do, because I really like just the brats and the potato, is that. Then what I'm going to do is grab myself a knife, and this is very well cooled off because it's been sitting waiting. And like I said, or I think I mentioned anyway, these are not the traditional brats I use, but like I believe I said, it's what we had, so it's what I'm using. Generally, I like to use the Johnsonville cheddar brats, but honestly, whatever you have, whatever works, whatever you're gonna eat. And then I'm just gonna put these in here like so. And because I love salt and I need more in my life, I'm gonna sprinkle a tiny bit of salt. Remember, I did already add salt, so I just doing a little bit there, topping it with some ketchup, like so. And now I'm ready to eat my dinner. Alright guys, and that is what we are eating for dinner. That is how you make it. If you make it, go ahead, comment below, let me know, and tell me what you would add to yours, if anything, or tell me what it is you guys had for dinner. And until next time.